I reckon the Volkswagen Polo GTI is a better bet than a Golf GTI, and in this review I'm going to tell you why. G'day, my name's Matt. This channel's called The Right Car, and the Polo GTI could be the best little hot hatch you can get if you're after something that's refined, punchy, fun, and also pretty spacious. I'm going to show you all of those things in this review and plenty more as well, and tell you the best alternatives to this car too. So stay tuned, there's a fair bit to cover, and if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. Let's get to it. Yes, this is the Volkswagen Polo GTI, and it is, well, more expensive now than it's ever been, but still represents pretty good value for money if you ask me. So some of the highlights when it comes to the standard equipment include LED headlights. You also get this LED bar that runs across underneath the bonnet too, which is quite nice. You get alloy wheels, obviously. You get red brake calipers, a body kit on the outside, and on the inside you get tartan trimmed sports seats, an 8-inch touchscreen media system with sat-nav, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, wireless as well, and a digital instrument cluster for the driver. But it does stand out as really good value for money based on what is under the bonnet. It's got twice the engine capacity as some of the lower spec versions and double the power of the base model as well. So I'll tell you the details shortly, but look, we're here to talk about the GTI, so let's talk about some of its best competitors. One of the best alternatives to the Polo GTI is a car that's been really hard to get your hands on, the Hyundai i20N. There's been stock limitations on that European sourced Hyundai product, which is very fast and very fun. It has a 1.6 litre turbo petrol engine with a 6-speed manual transmission, and it's also got more power but less torque than the Polo GTI for less money. So it does stack up if you are after a real fun machine, as long as you can deal with manual only. Another small car that is, well, a lot smaller when it comes to the price point is the Swift Sport from Suzuki. Now, this car has been around for a while, and it is a very impressive little car. Not as sporty, really, as the other models that I'm mentioning in this section, but it does have a pretty zesty little turbo petrol engine, the choice of a 6-speed manual or 6-speed automatic as well. So it might be a better choice for you if you are just looking for a compact commuter that's a bit of fun to drive too. And if budget isn't that big of a deal for you, then maybe also check out what is the most fun you can have in a compact hatchback, in my opinion, the Toyota GR Yaris. It's a 3-door model, and it's manual only at this point in time, and it's rally bred, so it actually has some serious fun factor to it. Feels like it's pivoting in every single moment that you turn the wheel. It's a really, really fun little car, very lively to drive, and it could be a really good choice for you if you've got, well, more than 50 grand to spend on something that little. The Polo GTI is the smallest of the GTI models, obviously. It's just over 4 meters long, but it looks pretty bulky because it's about 1.8 meters wide, so it does have a fair bit of chunk to it. Love that there are the red elements that you would expect. Yes, you do get GTI badging, and you also get GTI badging on the side. Nice red brake calipers. It's a pretty nice looking little car in my opinion. Also love that you get the GTI badge at the back. Now, the Volkswagen badge is actually the way you open the boot. Let's have a look. Boot space varies. If you choose the GTI, you get a smaller boot because you can't lower the boot floor down like you can in some of the other models. But good to see that you do get a space and weight saving spare tyre in the GTI models. In the other versions, you also get a space saver spare. But look, the reason you can't lower the boot floor is because you've got some extra stuff underneath the boot floor that prevents you from doing that. But even so, it is a pretty decent size. You can fit a pram in there. I fit my daughter's pram in here pretty easily. A couple of suitcases, but it's not necessarily going to be the most practical family hatchback. The interior of the Polo GTI does feel special because of these tartan seats. They look fantastic. They're sporty in terms of the actual way that they hold you in place, and they're still comfortable, which I really like. And I'm a massive fan of cloth seat trim. A lot of brands, you know, insist upon having leather, but cloth really does have a nice feel to it and a bit more grip when you are cornering. So that's something that I really appreciate about this car. Also, I like the fact that it doesn't have GTI emblazoned on the seat anywhere either. I just think that it adds just a touch more class to the interior. Now, speaking of class, this car has a few optional extras fitted, including the panoramic roof here. So it's a pretty big glass roof. You've also got a optional package with a 9.2-inch screen and Beats audio as well. I'll put the pricing on your screen now. It does add to the wow factor of the cabin a little bit, but look, I've still had a few issues with this touchscreen. Mainly the reversing camera sometimes just doesn't work. So it's like you put it into reverse and you just get a black screen. The reversing sensors and parking sensors illustration comes up on the screen, but sometimes the camera just doesn't. So that's a little bit annoying. Speaking of annoying, there's a few things that I don't like about the controls in this car. So you do have buttons down the side here, which is good to see. They're not as tactile as a knob, so when you are driving, they can be a little bit fiddly. Same sort of thing on the steering wheel. There's haptic sliders for the volume control and the haptic buttons as well. They're not very good to deal with when you're driving either. And also there's haptic stuff when it comes to the climate control panel down here too. At least there is a panel for climate control. You don't have to do everything through a screen. It's just a separate section down here with fan control, air conditioning, temperature, all that sort of stuff, including a recirc button as well. There's also a fully color digital instrument cluster in front of the driver as well. It's bright, it's colorful, and it has a lot of information that is very handy. It's also reasonably easy to use. You just have to use the buttons on the steering wheel, again, to interact with it. So the controls could be better, but it is pretty functional for the most part. Now, I like the fact that you do have a more traditional gear shifter. Some of the newer Volkswagen Skoda products have shifted to that little tiny shifter, but I like this one. It's something to hold on to. You've also got a manual handbrake as well for whatever you want to use that for. There's a couple of buttons down the side here as well, including the auto parking button, which is better than in some newer Volkswagen products where you have to go through a screen to make that system work. And also you do have some interesting storage options. So you've got a wireless phone charger here, a couple of USB-C ports. There's a couple of cup holders. They're a bit oddly shaped. They're like hexagonal. So I don't have any hexagonal cups in my cupboard. I don't know if you do, but it's a bit weird. There's a little second section here for storing something. I don't know what you'd put there. Small covered center console bin and bottle holders in the doors. But unlike some other Volkswagen products, they aren't lined or flocked. So that scratchy plastic, so things can move around in those pockets. But at least you do get soft elbow pads on the doors, even if it is a little bit cheap feeling in some other ways when it comes to the materials used in the cabin. All right, let's see if the back seat is usable enough. So this seat is set for my driving position. I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot. My knees are really hard up against the seat ahead of me. So it's not going to be for families who have really big kids, or if you are often ferrying big people around in the back. Yeah, it's not going to be the right car for you. But if you do have youngsters, I've got a 2-year-old and 2 little dogs, and we can all fit in here pretty comfortably. So you've got ISOFIX points on the window seats and 3 top tether points as well. You are missing a few amenities in the back though, so it's not the ideal family car. There's no flip down armrest with cup holders. You don't get rear seat directional air vents, and also you get a pair of USB-C ports and map pockets, but that's really about it, apart from bottle holders in the doors, which again are those scratchy plasticky elements. And there's no elbow pad on the back door armrest, so it's quite hard to rest your arm there. So look, it's more of a driver's car than it is a passenger's car. Under the bonnet of the Polo GTI is a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine with pretty good power and torque figures. You'll see them on your screen now, and all of that has to go through a dual clutch automatic transmission to the front wheels. This is the one that's fun, and it's the one that most people are buying, in fact. So let's go for a drive and see what it's like. The Polo GTI does that thing that the Golf GTI does, in that it really just blends the way that a sporty car should drive with the way a really livable car should drive. And yeah, it's really, really good to live with. Look, it isn't going to be for everyone. It is pretty firm at times, although there is adaptive suspension, so you can adjust it to be softer if that's what you want. But even in the soft mode, it is still a little bit firm, but it's nowhere near as firm as hot hatches of years gone by, and certainly not as the first generation Polo GTI, which was really, really hard. Whereas this car is balancing that, well, sporty, dynamic feeling drive experience with also the livability of a little hatchback like this in a really nice way. The steering is also lovely. It's accurate, it's well weighted, and it has good feel as well. So you do feel like you are very much in control of this car in all situations, whether you are just going around roundabouts or going slow speeds just around urban areas like I am right now, or if you find a really fun road where you can exploit the chassis of this car, because it does handle itself really, really convincingly. And the engine is excellent. Even in normal driving, it's definitely adequate in terms of the amount of power and torque available. But if you do put it into one of the sporty modes, or even just the sports transmission, yeah, it's really quick. Really, really quick. Look, you're not going to use all of that power and torque all the time unless you plan to go to the track, or if you are a real enthusiast, then you might use it a bit more often than some others, because, hey, I think it just offers a really nice amount of effortlessness to the drive experience at lower speeds, at higher speeds. You just know that there's enough grunt to call on here if you need it. Dual clutch automatics, or DSGs as Volkswagen calls them, well, they do take a little bit of learning because they're a little bit different in the way that they behave compared to a conventional automatic transmission. So for example, you're just coming up to this intersection here. I'll just stop and we'll turn right. So engine start stop has activated, and when you turn the steering wheel, it'll reactivate. So we'll just kick off here. So that was actually pretty good, and the way that it just gets the car away from a standstill, there's like a little bit of clutch riding feel to it. It's not unusual, that's what it's supposed to feel like. At higher speeds, when you are going a lot faster, the gear shifts are super snappy, so you will find that it is up to the task, and it feels really, really quick to shift when you are leaving it to its own devices. And look, there are paddle shifters. If you want to go into your own manual mode and pretend that you're a race car driver, then by all means, but most of the time the DSG is going to be smarter than you when it comes to picking the gears. So, negatives. Well, there is quite a bit of road noise intrusion in this car on coarse chip road surfaces at higher speeds. So on highways, freeways, you will notice that it can get loud in here. That's not uncommon in Volkswagen Group products. It's just a little bit frustrating how loud it can be at times. I mean, sure, you've got the optional stereo in this car, so you could turn up the radio or your podcast or whatever you're listening to, but often you have to turn up the radio or the podcast that you're listening to just so you can still hear it when you go over a coarse chip surface. Otherwise, this is a totally convincing little hot hatch car, and also a really, really livable little hatchback. On your screen now, you'll see the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the entry-level versions of the Polo with the very, very thrifty little engine. And look, that's fine. I mean, that's really, really good if you can achieve it. But we're not here to talk about that. Now, so on your screen now, you'll see the official number for the GTI version of the Polo. Obviously a little bit higher, it's a performance car. And if you're wondering what I've seen over a week of testing, where I've done all the stuff I usually do, you know, running around town, a few highway runs, going and picking up my daughter from daycare, which is what I'm going to do right now, yeah, you'll see that on your screen now. And honestly, I reckon that's pretty good. I reckon that's really good. The Polo range, including the GTI, came with the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating in 2022, so it's stacked with the gear that you would expect, including autonomous emergency braking. There's lane keeping assistance, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and adaptive cruise control. But the GTI comes with everything you can get, and it also has a reversing camera, front and rear parking sensors, a semi-autonomous parking system, so it can basically park itself in tight spots if you need it to. And it's also got 7 airbags fitted, including a front center airbag to prevent head clashes if you were to be T-boned. Yeah, pretty good. Volkswagen offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty in Australia. Plus, there's also the choice of cap price servicing, so you can pay it as you go if you wish, or if you want to save a bit of money, then you can prepay your servicing by buying a 3 or 5 year service pack. The prices are on your screen now. And look, you're saving like $800 if you do that. So I would do that, right? To me, the Polo GTI feels like $40,000 well spent. If you're after a fun and fast and pretty functional little car, then you can't really go wrong here, I don't think. But tell me what you think in the comments section below. Is it worth saving $15,000 or $20,000 to get into this rather than a Golf GTI? I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.